Welcome to Keys Consumer Math and Personal Finance. We are looking at section 3.6 stocks. We're going to do a few examples. But before we do the examples, I wanted to show you the tables on page 83 and tell you what each column means. The high column and the low column are for the last 52 weeks. It's the highest price and the lowest price a particular stock was sold. And then the column that says stock, that's the symbol for the company that owns the stock, or that you buy the stock from. The DIV column is the dividend. That means that's the amount per share of the last dividend that was paid out. The PE is the price to earnings ratio, so basically it's the stock price of a common share divided by the earnings per common share in the last 12 months. And if it's a higher number, then it means it's popular. If it's a lower number, it's not as popular. A popular stock to buy or sell. The close column is the closing price, or the last price which it sold, the stock sold for the previous day, not today's, because we look at the previous day. And then the change column is what that difference is from yesterday to the day before yesterday. So I like the first one, the -10. That means that the price yesterday was 10 cents lower than the price the day before. But the next column, 39 cents plus 39, means the price yesterday was 39 cents higher than the day before. That's what the plus and the minus mean. The second table gives you the brokerage fees that we're going to be using for this section, and we're assuming that it's a full service brokerage. It is a whole lot easier to calculate the brokerage fees here than it is for bonds. It's straight on the commission of how much the transaction, dollar value of the transaction, either when you buy it or when you sell it. When you're buying stocks, you add the brokerage fee to the cost of what you bought. When you're selling stocks, you take it away from your what you get back when you sell it. Okay, so let's look at example 1. They're asking us to find A, the closing price of the WL stock 2 days before the report that is shown in table 3.7. And then B, they want us to find the amount of the last dividend that was paid out on 700 shares. Like how much would it cost, how much did you make if you got paid out on 700 shares? So we're looking here at table 3.7. We're not buying or selling anything, so we don't need table 3.8. We don't need the brokerage fee, but we're looking at this last box here for WL stock. So part A, they're asking us for the closing fee that happened 2 days before. Well, yesterday the closing price was $8.30 per share. This was 70 cents less than the day before, than the previous day, so 2 days ago. So they want to know what the price was 2 days ago. So I wrote it up here, $8.30 minus -70 cents. What this means is, what's the difference between yesterday's price and the day before? And the difference you subtract, but you're subtracting a -70, so they cancel each other out. And then when you add them, because they're the same sign, you get $9. So $8.30 is 70 cents less than the $9 from the previous day. Part B tells us to find how much the dividend payout would be on 700 shares. Well, we look at the DIV column, this column right here, and we see that the dividend payout's 84 cents per share. So over here on our work, we're going to say 700 shares times 84 cents. And when you multiply those two numbers together, you get $588. So the dividend payout for this particular period was $588 on the WL stock. Now let's look at example 2 on page 84. It tells us to find the cost of 500 shares of RLDS stock, including the brokerage fee, if A, we purchased it at the highest price in the last 52 weeks, and B, if we purchased it at the closing price yesterday. We're going to come up here and look at table 3.7 at the next to the last row. okay, the RLDS stock. And we want to know how much it cost us to purchase 500 shares of this stock at the highest price in the last year, and that would be $50. But we also have to include the brokerage fee, so we're also going to come back here and look at table 3.8 to figure out how much that is too. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our $500, 500 shares, and we're going to multiply it by $50 a share. When we multiply that out, we get $25,000. But we also have to pay a brokerage fee. So we're going to come back up here and look at table 3.8. Now the brokerage fee is based on how much it cost us to either buy or sell it. And it was $25,000, which is over $20,000. So we are going to pay a brokerage fee of 0.8% or 0.008. So the way we do that is we come over here and we multiply $25,000, that's how much it cost us, times 1.008. If I just multiplied it by 0.008, that would give me my brokerage fee, but then I would have to add it to $25,000. When I multiply it by 1, I'm multiplying the $25,000 by 100% plus the 0.008 percent that I give to the broker, and so I end up paying $25,200 for those 500 share of stock if I bought it at the highest price in the last 52 weeks. The next thing I need to do is find out how much it's going to cost if I bought it at the closing price yesterday. So let's take a look at that table again. So instead of buying it at the highest price of $50 a share, we're going to buy it at $25.48 a share. Yeah, it should have been just this one circled there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 500 shares and I'm going to multiply it by the closing price, which was $25.48 per share. Oops, $25.48 per share. When I multiply those two numbers together, I get $12,740. Significantly cheaper than before. But I still have to figure out my brokerage fee. So times 1 point, and let's look at the table to figure out. Well, $12,740 is between this $9,000 and $13,999. So I'm going to pay a 1.5% brokerage fee. The less it costs me to buy it, the more the brokerage fee costs me. So 1% translates to 0.015. So I'm going to multiply $12,740 times 1.015 because I have to. That takes care of my adding. And when I multiply those two numbers together, I get $12,931.10. So that's how much it would have cost me had I bought it at the closing price yesterday. Now, example 3 asks us, it doesn't tell us to look at a particular stock. It says, what is the profit if I bought a stock, 400 shares of a stock, at $89.30? I got paid out a dividend of 54 cents per share, and then I sold it at $103.65, including the brokerage fees. So I don't need to really look at my chart to start with. I will need to look at the brokerage fee chart though, but I don't need it for my other one because it's not a specific stock. So I'm going to say 400 shares times $89.30 per share. When I multiply those two numbers together, it cost me $35,720. But now I've got to figure out my brokerage fee. So I've got to go look at the chart and see which percentage I use. Well, $35,720 is over $20,000. So I need to pay a 0.8% brokerage fee. So I'm going to multiply the cost of my stock times 1.008. That saves me the step of having to add. And when I multiply those together, I get $36,005.76. $36,005.76. So that's my cost. That's how much it cost me to buy these stocks. But then, in the meantime, I got paid 54 cents a share, 1 quarter. So I'm going to figure out how much I made 1 quarter on this. So 400 times 54 cents per share, that's my dividend, that's the part that I get that quarter, ends up being $216. Then I decide I want to sell my stock. So I'm going to sell it, all 400 shares, for $103.65 because the price has gone up and I want to take advantage of that. And when I multiply those two numbers together, I get $41,460. Whoops. But I cannot, hold on, let me fix that real quick. $41,460, yes. Sorry about that. Anyway, that's not how much I get back though. I mean, that is how much I sell it for, but I have to pay a brokerage fee. And because $41,460 is over $20,000, I have to pay 0.8%. So I'm going to multiply this by 0.08. Because this is what I made, and so my brokerage fee is going to come out of that. So when I multiply $41,460 times 0.8%, I get $331.68. That's how much my brokerage fee cost. So I have to subtract that $331.68 from my profit, for my $41,460. So I really only got $41,128.32. So that's how much I got back. So basically, I want to know what my profit is. So $41,128.32 is what I sold it for. Plus, I made a profit of $216, but then I have to subtract what I bought it for. So I have to subtract the $36,005.76 it cost me. And when I add and subtract all of that money, I ended up making $5,338.56. So that was my profit right there. Okay, we're going to look at the last example on page 84, and it tells us to find out what our loss is if we bought $700 shares of AMCH stock at the highest price of the year, and then we sold it at $26 a share. We're also going to make the assumption that we did not get paid out a dividend, so we didn't hold it long enough to get paid out a dividend. And I want to find out what my loss is going to be. So I come up here to table 3.7, and I see it's my second column, my second row that I can't draw a box around very well. That's what I'm looking at, and I know that I paid $38.20 per share when I bought it. So I'm going to take my 700 shares, and I'm going to multiply them by $38.20. And when I do that, I paid $26,740. Plus, I have to pay out my brokerage fee. Well, since $26,740 is more than $20,000, I know that I've learned by now that I pay out my broker 0.8%. So I multiply that by 1.008, and when I multiply those two numbers together, I end up getting $26,953.92. So $26,953.92. That's how much it cost me to buy this stock. But before I even get paid a dividend, I'm having buyer's remorse. So I'm going to sell it, but I'm only going to sell it for $26 a share. So I'm selling it for less than I paid for it. So I'm going to multiply $700 times $26, and when I do that, I only get $18,200 back. Maybe I needed the money. But I also know that I've got to pay a brokerage fee on that. Well, my $18,200 is not over $200, so I know it's not going to be 0.8% that I have to pay my broker. I look over here, and it's the bottom, next to the bottom column, so I'm going to end up paying, the next to the bottom row, I'm going to end up paying 1% to my broker. because I'm subtracting, I'm not going to multiply it by 1.01. I'm going to multiply it by 0.01 here. And when I multiply $18,200 by 0.01, I get $182. So I have to subtract $182 from $18,200. When I do that, I get $18,018. So that's how much money I got back from my stocks, $18,000 and $18,018. So now I've got to figure out if it's a profit or a loss. So I'm going to take my $18,018, and I'm going to subtract the cost of it. So what it originally cost me. So it originally cost me $26,953.92, including the brokerage fee. Oops, I forgot the 9 in there. So when I take $18,000 and I subtract that from it, I get a negative $8,935.92. Wow, so I have a loss of almost $9,000. But maybe I needed the money back. I don't know, or maybe I just was ready to sell and didn't want to play the game anymore. So I played the game at a loss of almost $9,000. Okay, that's all the examples that we're going to do for this section. Your homework should be very straightforward. It should be just like that. If you feel like you need extra practice, you can go to the additional problems that I have on files on Canvas.